There we go. Why is that changed? Should be working now. Why is that changed? There we go. All working now. Should be on YouTube. You have muted yourself. I've not muted myself. Wait, what you saying? Oh my goodness. It is on. I can hear it. Hail Hail Troop says Graham. Hail Hail says Graham. Got it. See, you're all at it. Oh my goodness. Better up with this. Working now on YouTube. Perfect. Perfect. Right, let's get back to the story of the day. Is obviously we'll start right at the back. The Brendan Rodgers was talking about Big Rocky and Nat Phillips, and he's talking about the fact that they've made a positive impact. He says, but when they get their chance, they must seize it. Obviously, it's an area of the pitch that Brendan Rodgers says that you don't want to make too many changes. You don't want to make too many changes at the back. You don't want to be changing those positions and those two. And I said it right at the beginning of the season once Carter Vickers was back, that him and Liam Scales will be the ones that will see us out to the end of the season. He was then asked, due to their young age and due to the fact that they're both on long-term contracts, do you see them progressing and bursting their way into the team, next season, which is interesting, which would suggest that we might lose one of our defenders in the summer, but that's a way ahead. Nat Phillips, he can go back down to Liverpool. He's came in, he's done a trick for us at the beginning of the season when we needed it. But one of the things that Brendan Rodgers did say, he said it's always about personality. There are clear players ahead of those two, which always takes my attention in training, which says to me they're just young guys. So that tells me that Lagerbielke and Rocky are just a couple of young guys that are maybe a bit too quiet and on training on the pitch. And when you've got guys that are louder than you and are a bit more forthcoming, those ones are going to get a shout ahead of you every day. And I mean, that's not just in football, that happens generally in life as well. And those make the most noise get noticed. But unfortunately for Gustav and Rocky, Liam Scales is coming to the team and he's played fantastic. Nat Phillips has been very positive influence on the team, Brendan Rodgers says. He says, but it is an area that you will not want to change, that you don't want to change. Now, the good news that came out of Celtic also today was Lewis Palma is not injured. He had a bit of cramp. So that was a bit of good news. So obviously with all the travelling and everything that he's done over the break, the cramp just got to him. He was replaced with James Forrest, who scored the goal at the weekend. Tell me what you think about James Forrest, because a lot of you have said that James Forrest is done and he should be moving on. Tell me what you think about James Forrest in the comments, because let's face it, he scored another cracker of a goal at the weekend. And let's talk about the nominee for J-League Player of the Year. Yes, a Celtic player who's going to end this calendar year after being on loan for the full year. Yoki Ideguchi is going to become Player of the Year. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. We'll put him back down there. Gucci's made 32 appearances for his team and helped his side win the Japanese League Cup after achieving their highest ever finish in the league. He is a bit older, Ideguchi, so it's a wonder that he's not getting a start again. But anyway, he got sent back, and it's looked like the club that he's now with are wanting to make it on a permanent basis. They want to make that move a more permanent basis. I guess Gucci was for Ideguchi. Yeah. Yeah, he couldn't handle it in Europe, so it wasn't all Gucci for him. Unfortunately, but he's doing well back in Japan, and he looks like he will move there permanently. Right, let's talk about some Celtic players. This'll really get yous going. This'll get the conversation going in the comment section. We're gonna talk about some Celtic players that really needed to pick up the back end, especially at the weekend. First one we're gonna talk about is Yang. Yang was so far off the pace at the weekend that it's no wonder he was taken off at half time. Come on, he's shown a little bit of what he can do, but he's not shown that consistency. He passed by, he's missed a couple. His game at the weekend was terrible, terrible. Tell me what you think about Yang, and do you think that he is going to become the player that we think he might become? Because if he performs like that, let's face it, Yang is never going to get into the team and replace Daizen Maeda when Daizen comes back fit. Daizen Maeda's obviously back in training, back on the pitch with Liel Abada, and him and Abada are back on the pitch training with the fitness guys, and they'll hopefully be back in training with the first team squad in the next week or so. Brendan didn't give us any idea when they would be back, but they said they're back on the pitch. They're not with the main team as it is just now. They're not with the main team, but what they are is they're back on the pitch, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Then we talk about Hatate. Hatate was back in Japan for a while with his rehabilitation. He is just coming back this week from Japan, so there's absolutely no chance that he will be ready before the winter shutdown. So he's not going to be back and playing before the Sevco game for sure. Because if he's just coming back for his rehab back in Japan, he'll then have to go with the fitness team back here, the medical team back here. He's out for another 2 months, which is unfortunate for us, but it's also unfortunate for him as well because it doesn't look like he'll get to the Asia Cup with Japan. So the next player I want to talk about, and let's be fair, he's took a bit of stickle for the last couple of weeks. He sits in that midfield position. He seems to be undroppable, and it must be the first. The captain's not been particularly bad, but he's not been particularly good. It's testament to how the standards usually sit over the last couple of seasons. But he did get that rollicking at half time, and he came out and he scored an absolute screamer. He scored the type of goal that you would expect Callum McGregor to score. So hopefully after that scoring at the weekend, hopefully Callum McGregor can sound at its best. Is it? No, it's the best tonight. It's went back to StreamYard and it is a complete nightmare. StreamYard is just sounds like you're on two mics. It's not on two mics, but I'll just check the settings again. Cap audio. The audio is on the USB. It's definitely on the USB. It's unbelievable. This friggin' app. Off. Automatic volume. StreamYard is just absolutely terrible. I shouldn't have used StreamYard tonight again. Used hand signals. Is it that bad? Ah, Jesus, goodness me. Bring back the Morse code. Easier. And Ideguchi, wait till I get it up on here. Easier. Well, it's fine on my phone. It is fine on my phone. I'm getting feedback. Getting feedback now because it's coming through. Anyway, Celtic should concentrate on bringing one or two players. It's probably my throat that's making it sound worse. It's probably my phone. It's fine now. Yeah, it was maybe feedback coming through from YouTube on my phone. Get the pigeons ready. Get the pigeons ready. Anyway, Reo Hatate is back in the fold. Reo Hatate, who's currently recovering from his hamstring, has been back in Japan, and it looks like Brendan Rodgers says that he's just travelling back just now. So that'll be interesting to see when he is back. Right, the next player I want to talk about is the one and only. We knew we've needed a left back for a long time, but Greg Taylor hasn't hit the heights this season that he's hit the last couple of seasons. He's cost us a goal or two this season. He's been really defensively, he's been really shaky. We really need someone to be giving Greg Taylor a run for his money. And where is Bernaby? How come Bernaby? How can he not even get in front a game in front of Taylor? Because it's unbelievable that Bernaby's been with us that long and we're still playing with Greg Taylor. The next one I want to talk about is Turnbull. Turnbull, he's been brought back into the fold, obviously, this season after he was frozen out by Postecoglou. It doesn't look like he's going to sign, well, Brendan said he's not going to try and make anyone sign a new contract if they don't want to. They don't want to. If he doesn't want to sign a contract, you know, it's like sell him in this window. Sell him in this window. And people saying, "Oh, we'll get an absolute fortune for Turnbull." You're never going to get a lot of money for Turnbull. We bought him for 3 million. You know, he's going to have 6 months left on his contract. He could sign a pre-contract agreement with anyone he wants in January. So then it's up to Celtic, put the ball in Celtic's court and then just try and sell him down south. It's as simple as that. He obviously wants to go down south. So for me, it's get rid of him. Get rid of him. Let's get to some of the comments. John, hi from the Govern Emerald. Cracking bus as always, John. And loads of banter for the Govern Emerald Twitter account. Michael says, we've been screaming for a left back for 18 months. Yep. Won't see Hatate now about the Bucky game on the 20th of January. Yep. You'll be lucky if Reo Hatate is even back for then. And he'll need to get some game time. He'll need to get some really good time on the pitch. I don't think it could be a game to bring him back. Could be a game to bring him back, but you never know. I would rather get the players that have played for a couple of months in for that game, just so there's no shocks, a bit like Clyde back in the day. Lanky, there'll be no Rio put on a performance when he's ready to show other clubs what he can do for a move away. That'll be just towards the end of the season then, Lanky. That will just be towards the end of the season. Paul Baird says Turnbull can go. He doesn't want to be at Celtic. Exactly. Exactly. It's time for him to go. Baz, I keep telling you, KT is coming back. No worries, Stephen. He's not coming back. Stop this nonsense. Do you think it would be good for his career if he came back? I mean, does it say? To me, it says when you went on the journey that Kieran Tierney's went on, it shows a bit of, is it a lack of ambition to come back and play in Scotland? Or is it, I mean, he's fulfilled his boyhood dreams playing for Celtic. So let's look at it realistically. You've grew up, you've played for Celtic, you went away down south, you've been injured at Arsenal, you played in the Premier League, which is meant to be the best league in the world, allegedly. You've then had a chance to go to Spain. You've got to Spain, you've got another injury again. And it is cold at that north part of Spain. The weather isn't great. It's probably a bit like Scotland, to be honest. But during the summer, it can get up to about 30 degrees. So he does have that good weather. And then when he's back fit and playing for his team in Spain, when he does away days every second week, they get a nice little plane somewhere. They'll fly to whatever city they're going to. And they'll get a bit warmer temperature for the day before the game kicks off, and then they fly back the next day. Do you really think that Kieran Tierney would give that up to come back to play in Scotland, to play for Celtic against Livingston, against Ross County, against Kilmarnock on that dodgy pitch? And do you really think that he's going to come back and play for Celtic? He's done it. He's been there and done it. He's nothing to prove with Celtic. So maybe in a couple of years' time. But I don't think that he's going to come back right now. I think he wants to prove himself. Michael Ross says Wanyama's coming back. I think Kieran Tierney's still got a lot to prove, and especially his team in Spain. And the team in Spain want to take him on permanently, which I think he probably will do. KD misses us, my taxi driver. KT won't be back anytime soon. Kieran Tierney, as a fan of Jersey, but I hope it's the truth. Nah, don't think it'll ever happen. Do you really think it's over? Gary Hooper's coming back in January. God, is he still playing football? Is Gary Hooper still playing football? Anyway, let's get to another player that I think that we need to talk about. And let's face it, over the past couple of weeks, he's been off the boil. Now, a lot of us have been saying that he's been playing out of position. He's coming back too far back. He's not playing off the shoulder of the strikers. And we need to talk about Kyogo, because let's face it, Kyogo is not playing at his best. Now, you could say that it's down to the players not giving him and not getting the crosses in. His movement is as good as. I'm going to go back to the first year that Ange Postecoglou was here, and if you look back at the movement that Kyogo had then, and it's not just Kyogo. If you look at the movement that the front three players had back then, the movement was a lot quicker and a lot faster. Do you feel that the front three, specifically the last couple of weeks, have been a bit more stagnant? I think Kyogo has been. I don't think that him coming back into the middle of the pitch, and you can understand tactically why Brendan's trying to do it, because it's trying to pull the defenders out. But when you look at it, Kyogo's been that far off the boil. It's no wonder that he's been getting hooked off the pitch. He gets bullied on the pitch quite a lot. A lot of teams have started bullying him off the ball. We've seen this last season. Defenders would run into him. So hence the reason that he had his shoulder injury. I think that he's still carrying this shoulder injury, although they're managing it. The Kyogo said a few months ago, he said they're managing it. But you seen him at the end of the game again at the weekend. Yesterday, he wasn't doing his usual Kyogo dance. That was left to the one and only O'Reilly. So, is Kyogo 100% fit? That's the big question for me. Is Kyogo 100% fit on the pitch? If he's holding back because of his injury and he gets it off the ball, the referees in Scotland are terrible. The fact that they're not seeing what's happening to him. You've got linesmen especially, if they're meant to be watching him being off, going offside, but they never managed to see him getting absolutely taken out by defenders. Now, we're not going to moan about it. We're not going to moan about it because we're top of the league, and we don't moan about things when we're top of the league. We just keep on going. We know what's going to happen in Scottish football, so we just get on with it. But let's get to some of your comments and see what you think about Kyogo. If players do not suit the system, you sell them or change the system. Kyogo is still carrying that shoulder injury. You've seen it at full time. I think Kyogo coming off the bench at the 60 minutes mark would be more effective. I think that would be more effective and give him that little kick up the back end that he maybe needs. People weren't trying, and you've got to put that down to the whole team. The whole team weren't trying the first half. Brendan is not playing the right tactics. The team is playing too slow. That's interesting, Paul, because I mean, Brendan has turned around and said that he wants a faster pace in the game. So there seems to be some kind of communication problem with what Brendan wants and what's happening when they actually go into the pitch. Brendan Rodgers says just a week ago that he wants the team to be unpredictable. But when we watch Celtic, we are so predictable, it is unbelievable. Right, if you are watching this and you've got Twitter, go and do me a favour. I'm going to try something. Take the video and click the share button and then share it onto your Twitter feeds. Just to try it. I just want to try something just as a test. Anyway, Slaven says, Kyogo needs fed and he's been given very few opportunities recently. Yep, pretty much. Glad you're on tonight. There you go. Tom Mack and no brigade to dance down. Yeah, that's it. The Green Brigade are meant to be back on Wednesday. That'll upset a few folk because I've seen a few folk in the comments saying we don't want the Green Brigade back. We don't want their politics. We didn't want their. You didn't want the stadium not singing either. So I think it's time to get the Green Brigade in, get the Green Brigade back in, and we're not turning this into a Green Brigade conversation, but get them back in and get them making some noise in the stadium. Because let's face it, it's sounding like a bit morgue-ish just now. Anyway, beginning of the season, I said Scales should get his chance after the trial in the last season and pre-season. Now, says Kevin. Several people said no chance, he's not good enough, but he's been great. He has took his chance, and that's the one thing that you've got to give him. He's took his chance, and that's why there's a couple of players not getting on the pitch. Now, Brendan Rodgers said that comes down to the way they are in training. He says it's personality. It's always personality, Brendan Rodgers says. There's clearly players ahead of the two defenders in question. He says, but what always ticks my attention in training, he says, I'm out there every day and I watch training and I see the players train and I work with that personality. that they have on the pitch. To me, it says it's a couple of guys that are younger that are feeling probably a bit intimidated by some of the Scottish guys and maybe the guys that are playing in front of them. Maybe they're only 21, 22, 23. Um, and they need to come out their shell a bit. And I think that will happen in time. Definitely happen in time. If you look at Christopher Ayer, when you look at him, when Ronnie Dyler brought him to the club. He was only a young lad as well. When you look at him, he had to wait his time and get into the team. And then you look at Christopher Ayer, he was pretty good for us. And then he got his big move down south. So let's get to some. We'll ever get the Green Brigade back. Michael, yes, they're coming back on Wednesday. I am led to believe, but don't quote me on it. Don't quote me on it, but I think they will be back on Wednesday. Talking about Kyogo, the wee man needs a break. We need another striker in to cover. It was interesting that Brendan Rodgers says that we're not after a goalkeeper during this window. So he's after 4 first team players that are going to be first team ready. For me, that says that David Turnbull's on his way out the door. David Turnbull's the squad player that we pretty much need. So we're going to it looks like we're going to bring in another midfield player that's first team ready. Paulo Bernardo really needs to get his chance. Who else? The manager was asked at the end of the press conference. He was asked about has he had the talk with the players that they might be getting moved on in the next window, and he said no. And that was it. It ended the press conference on that. I think that's a conversation that if he's going to have it, he's going to have it with the players first. It's not time to have it with the players just yet. You're going to have that. It'll be after Christmas Day. It'll be after the Rangers game that you'll have that conversation. You're not going to have that conversation with the players with 8 or 9 games to go this month because they're going to down tools. So for me, it was a pretty poor question to ask, but because the answer is, for me, it's obvious. You're not going to have that kind of talk with players that are maybe going to get moved on in the window, purely for the fact that if they then decide to down tools over the next 8 games, it's going to cost you points. So you've got to keep these players on their toes. Hence the reason that the manager just said no when it comes to has he had the conversation with any players that were going to move on. Right, let's get back to some of the comments. Martin says, I'll go to Helen first actually. When Kyogo come off, he was turning his arm around, maybe his shoulder is still bothering him. I think he's still getting a little bit of trouble. You've seen him after the game, he was holding his shoulder. So it'll be interesting. It's obviously nothing that's bothering him too much, but this could be a good shout bringing him on in the 60th minute. The manager was also speaking about the fact that he's not too averse to playing him and up front together, playing the two of them up together. So you would need a change of formation in that because then you can't go with 3. You can't play the 4-3-3. So the manager would need to change the formation slightly for that. Even you, John, how are you? How was Kev today? Was he moaning about the weather? He's been moaning all weekend about it to me. Kyogo will hit form again, says Sean. I'm sure of that. Made a big difference. He made a massive difference. The boy for Benny Offer just down the road. So hopefully we'll suddenly spend more. Catch you at Paddy's Point. You might not catch me at Paddy's Point. I've not been going down there too much because it's too far to travel. You might catch me in Guardamar, the Hoops Bar in Guardamar, or up in Alicante. Head up to Alicante. They've got a cracking little supporters club up there. They've got. And nothing against Paddy's Point, it's too far for me to drive down there now. That's about it. Anyway, not getting audio here. Tarmac, you're so getting audio. That's it. The audio is back. Tam, unless you're watching way back. Paul Baird says we need the Green Brigade in as soon as possible. Get the Green Brigade back in. The team's really missing the Green Brigade, especially at home. I'd like to see us go 4-4-2 tomorrow with Kyogo. Tomorrow? I'm sure it was Wednesday we're playing, Pat. Who are you playing tomorrow? Because I was positive it was Wednesday night we're playing. I can go 4-4-2 on Wednesday. I'd love to see us going 4-4-2 just to make sure that you've got to think because Hibs are going to sit back. And we definitely need to change formation sometime and just go for it. That's what I think, John Shirley. Baz, why is Brendan Why is Brendan giving us the slow factor every time? Why is that central way? Fast forward and attacking team. Why is it? I don't think Brendan has changed it. If you listen to Brendan, he has come out and said that he wants fast attacking football. Even as you, Stuart, how are you? Do you still do the egg? I have no idea, Michael. Anyway, you had your little comment. O'Reilly, let's jump forward to some of the comments that are coming in. Mikey Johnson made a difference. It did make a difference, and a lot of people saying that Mikey Johnson should be out the door. Mikey Johnson got the wrath of the manager. He got the wrath of the manager saying that, do your talking on the pitch. Mikey Johnson came on in the second half, and he definitely took his chance. And it is all about attitude. And I think that Mikey Johnson could be the one and only player that we think that might not leave in the next window. That's just a little thing I've got because Brendan likes him as a player. Um, so we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see what happens with window. Right, let's get to smell the glove. Pivotal day on Wednesday. Beat Hibs, and surely the Diets have to turn up at Tynecastle. You know they won't turn up. They bend over every time they head over there. Um, you're going to take it's a safe goal win all day long. I don't know. Tynecastle's nothing to them. The two of them wave their Union Jacks together, and that'll be it. That'll be it. The best of friends, and then and there's the 3 points to take back up the road with these lads. Anyway, let's get back to the real reason Brendan Rodgers said that Lagerbielke and Rocky can't get a game because he doesn't like to split up the two defenders that are basically are right up there. We did say Scales has took his chance exactly the way you wanted him to. Um, Cameron Carter Vickers is just Cameron Carter Vickers. He just does what he does on the pitch. It's going to be hard for both those guys to get a chance this season. The manager was asked about with the fact that they're on long-term contracts. I think those two players might be ones that might actually go out on loan. They might go out on loan for 6 months just at the end of the season to give them some game time, but you never know. You never know. Anyway, handbags at high noons. Whose goal was better? Oh, there's one. There's one for you. Whose goal was better? Tell us in the comments. Whose goal was better? Was it McGregor or Matt O'Reilly? Tell us in the comments. Either put in McGregor or O'Reilly in the comments right now and tell us whose goal was better. I think it was McGregor. Even though Kyogo passed the ball to O'Reilly and he hit that, it was an absolute screamer. But for the fact that McGregor's was from the corner, the ball was coming out. McGregor took up that position that McGregor used to always take up. He used to always take up that one just on the outside of the box. The ball falls to him. He's got it all to do to hit it through all the players. You know, you've got to hit that with some force to make sure that you get, even if it gets a deflection, that it goes in. So for me, it was definitely. I thought Calmax was better than O'Reilly's. O'Reilly's was a cracker. It was on his wrong foot. He said it's the best goal that he scored with his wrong foot in his career. He said, but it's probably not going to be the best goal I'll ever score. He says I've got a long career ahead of me, so it's a lot easier going for Calmac and Matt O'Reilly just because the full length of the move. Yeah, you could go for that. But when was the last time we scored from a corner? The reason that I'm going for Callum McGregor's is we do not score from corners. We need a corner coach. We need a corner coach on how to score from corners. The fact that it came in from the corner and the ball kind of kicked about, it was going out. They tried to get it out, and you always need somebody just on the off chance. And McGregor made sure that he wasn't marked. There was nowhere near him. So I think that's why it was the better goal. O'Reilly, you say Pat's going for O'Reilly's was goal of the season. I don't know. That's probably going to cut. No, I'm not going to say that because we're not even halfway through the season, and I think there's going to be some more spectacular goals to come. The way that we're going just now, we need to score more goals from outside the box. The manager wants us to do that, and we need to do it from corners. We need to be scoring more from corners. Stuart says, please don't talk about corners. Does my head right in? Yeah. Yep. Yeah. King said the last time we played Hibs, they defended all game and they tried to counter attack. So they're going to do that. They're going to do that again. They're going to do that. We need a quick goal. Settlers, we definitely need a quick goal on Wednesday. Will we get it? I doubt it because they're going to sit back. They do it every time they play us, and we need to break them down. Even the manager said that. He says it's the way that they set up. They set up to sit back and try and hit us on the break. We need to get them to try and hit us on the break, and then we need to defend a bit better than what we have been doing. So yeah, let's get some more of the comments. Yes. I thought Johnson's goal this season. Dan, you're not getting that message up. That's just because you did that back in the jungle. Yep. Yep. Lanky says the last time he scored from a corner was Welsh last season. It's the first game in the league. That's why I'm going for Calmack's goal because it came from a corner. It was we don't score that many from corners, so yeah, that's why Calmack got it before O'Reilly. Even though O'Reilly's was a cracking bit of play, even though it was a cracking bit of play, I thought, yeah, McGregor's gets it. McGregor's gets it for me. Anyway, let's close down some of these windows. That one, let me just see what Celtic news is kicking about. Obviously, Tom Boyd, Chris Boyd was fairly freaking out after the game yesterday, complaining about Celtic going out in the transfer market again. Chris Boyd was talking about it after the game, freaking out, saying, "Why are Celtic going into the transfer market again? Why do they feel the need to improve the squad just to win the league in Scotland?" Well, because that's what you do when you're top. You want to make sure that you want to win the league in Scotland. Anyway, when was the last time that we never? Yes. When was the last time we never conceded for his corner? And what? Right, let's talk about Joe Hart. What was Joe Hart doing for that corner yesterday? What was Joe Hart doing um, for that corner yesterday? Yes, there was a lot of players round about him, but he basically cuddled over the Celtic player and he never commands his box well at all. And that's one of the downsides. He is a good enough keeper to keep to the end of the season to win the league. The manager's seemingly told him that it's not a position that he's looking to replace at the moment. So even though that we all know that we need a different goalkeeper, we need a better goalkeeper. Hart just gives me absolute night, and I still go back to that one where he's 3 feet behind the line and tries to save the ball. And I've still got the picture on my laptop, and it's like really, he pushes the ball up as if he's going to try and put it over the bar, but he's 3 feet over the line, and then that one at the weekend, it just doesn't command these. What could you think of? Could you imagine if that was Borage, Arthur Borage, right? With that many defenders around, he'd be flying into the defenders, knocking the defenders for six, and then he would be getting the foul. Do you know what happens with goalkeepers? It always goes the goalkeeper's way. Do you know that if there's a foul in the box, it always goes the goalkeeper's way? Not with Joe Hart. Joe Hart just gets pushed and bullied about all over the place, and for a big guy, um, it's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Well said. The keeper needs to be more commanding. It does need to be more commanding. John says we need a Bobo type defender. We've got an abundance of defenders just now. We've got a lot of project, and one of the things that was asked when you think back to Brendan's first time at Celtic, he brought in a couple of players that were young prospects. Now, Chris Boyd spoke about it. Players that he brought in back then were prospect players, but you spent 8 or 9 million on them. And we expected a lot. Well, we got what we got. What we got. We got players that were fantastic at scoring goals. When it comes to defenders, we've never really spent good money on defenders for a long time. The last one was Cameron Carter-Vickers. We did spend 4 million on Rocky. The fact that he can't get ahead of skills, to me, I think when it comes to the summer, I think there'll be a defender that moves on. I definitely think there'll be a defender moves on. Now, whether it will be Cameron Carter-Vickers or Scales is the big question. Because let's face it, Cameron Carter-Vickers will have been at Celtic for 3 and a bit years. Will he now think it's maybe time? It's maybe time to get that little bit of freshness, or will he stay just to try? If we win the league, will he stay to just get that other year in the Champions League? I don't know. Our defenders share the blame for Sunday's goal. The defenders for not maybe pushing out the St Johnstone players, but I just think anyway. Let's get back to having a laugh. Chris Boyd raging again. Yeah, that was a fantastic video this morning. He was laughing at that. Like a Warsaw keeper looks good, saves as. Still has 70 odd England caps though. But that's in the past. That's in the past. And he was dropped for the England team. He was dropped for Man City. He was dropped for Man City because of all the mistakes he was making. And then he went down Spurs, and then we took him. So yeah, nobody wanted him down in England. Let's face it, he came to Celtic for 15 grand a week. If a club down in England were going to pay him 20 grand a week, he would have got his club down there. So for me, it says that he answered the call to Celtic when it's just pure speculation, but he answered the call from Ange when nobody else wanted him, if you ask me. But anyway, we have him. We've got him for another half a season, and we just need to get on with it. O'Reilly should have been handed the ball. Should have headed the ball instead of missing it. Yeah, I noticed a couple of the Celtic sites were saying O'Reilly he had his shirt pulled at that time when he missed the ball when it came in from the corner. When you look at it, his shirt was pulled, and VAR didn't want to give it, but O'Reilly totally miskicked the ball. Maybe he was going to go for a header, and when his shirt was pulled, he couldn't go for the header, so he decided to kick it. Maybe he should have collapsed to the ground. Maybe he should have did what European players would have done. Because as soon as your shirt's tugged, you just fall to the ground. I mean, it works for Sevco week in, week out. So, and it's interesting that a Radio Scotland presenter said that it's been 70 games since the Rangers last conceded a penalty. It's never happened to any other team, and he couldn't understand why that was so. Interesting stats. John, he's up and says, I played in goals for years, and I was always told to go through everyone, own players included. Exactly. So why doesn't Joe Hart do it? When fouls are given, right, when a goalkeeper goes all in and tries to get the ball, and the ref blows his whistle, it always goes the keeper's way. It always goes the keeper's way. And with Joe Hart, it seems to go the other team's way. It's mad. It's absolutely madness. Anyway, absolutely mad. We missed Starfelt in there. Yeah, a lot of people said that Starfelt wasn't up to it, but then when we lost Starfelt, it was a world beer. Anyway, we move on. Starfelt wanted away. Ange Postecoglou knew that he wanted away, so we deal with it. CCV doesn't like Scales. Hart just bounces off players. Hart doesn't even bounce off players, because if you bounced off players, well, that's maybe why he ended up 3 feet in the back of the net that time. Move on. Julian was a couple of quid. It was that. To watch again, gets pushed. Taylor needs to move on. If he moves on, we need to bring someone in. He's not going to move on. He's going to stay at Celtic. He doesn't need to move on. We just need someone in that can give him a bit of competition. Bernabe was bought to give him that competition, and it hasn't worked for some reason. Bernabe's just not given the chance. Anyway, let's get to Lanky. Last week on here, I said that CCV to go some point this year. This calendar year, we can't go this calendar year. So if he goes, I think Lanky, you're maybe right, and I think he will go next summer. Hopefully he doesn't. Hopefully he wants one more crack at the Champions League. Because let's face it, if he's going to go to another team down south, and this is the only reason I'm going to say this, if you're in his position, he was at Tottenham for a lot of years. He got passed around as many teams on loan as I think it was about 6 teams. He was out on loan from Tottenham before he came to Celtic. If you then go down south, you're wanting to go to a team that's going to be playing in Europe. The chances of him getting picked for a team that goes down and that are playing in Europe is slim. Let's face it, because a lot of these teams won't pay the kind of money that we're going to look for him that no, they're going to go for better defenders that are playing at a higher level week in, week out. And it's far too, the way that the English League looks at the Scottish League, it's like, look, you can do it in, week out for Celtic. When you come down, it's a bit harder. The fact that he did have spend a lot of time out on loan suggests to me that we'll maybe get another year out of him after this one, because once we don't automatically go into the Champions League, that's when you'll see the exodus of players from Celtic. And I don't mean an exodus as in a sort of vast majority. I mean players that are worth any value at all. Players that are worth any value will be sold. Will be sold. Paul Baird says CV will probably go in the summer, in his opinion. I think we might just keep him. I think we might just manage to keep a hold of him until the until automatic qualification for the Champions League is done. That's the summer that you will see. So you're talking about another season after this. And even you, Liam, CCV is not tall enough for the English Premier League. Interesting. Craig Gordon basically came under the same circumstances, but Craig Gordon was out injured for a lot. He had a leg breakdown in England, remember? Was it not Newcastle he was at? Craig Gordon. You remember he had a leg break and he couldn't get back into the team down there. He was then basically without a club. I don't think Craig Gordon had. In fact, was he not out of the game for a while? Was he not out of the game for about a year? He left Newcastle and he was out of the game for about a year during his rehab, and then he came to Celtic. I can't remember. I can't remember that far back. But yeah, he's one unfortunate guy that's had 2 leg breaks in his career. There's not often a football player gets 2 leg breaks, and the worst leg break that we've ever seen. Tell me in the comments. We're going to write up to the comments. What is the worst leg break that you've ever seen with a Celtic player? It is in the modern time, and if you remember the game, I'm not going to answer. There was a Celtic player that got a leg break. It was down round about his ankle, and it was one of the worst things I've ever seen. I wasn't at the game, I've seen it on telly. Tam Mac, you're right in with it, the first one. That almost, God, that brought a tear to my eye. That brought a tear to my eye. That was unbelievable. That night in Leon, oh my goodness, man. Unbelievable. That night in Leon was unbelievable. Larson's his foot was hanging the other way. I still remember it. It gives me the absolute creeps, man. Freaks me out even to this day. Yep, it was against Leon. Back in the day, long time ago. That, and he was at Sunderland. That was at Sunderland. Yeah, he was at Sunderland. It wasn't Newcastle. I can't. It was one of these two. Newcastle and Sunderland. They're both the same biatches, isn't they? They hate each other, but like Celtic and Rangers. Anyway, we move on. Larson and Leon was horrific to watch too. It was that. It was that. Right. Gray, we haven't had a Champions League game with Calmax. We haven't won. We haven't won. Oh, come on, you can't go down that road. We haven't won a Champions League game with Calmax starting. If you're going to go down that road, we haven't won a Champions League game with Scott Brown starting when he was captain. So come on, you can't give it to Calmac for that. The whole thing with the Champions League goes back a lot further than just when Callum McGregor's been here. There's a lot more to it than that. Liam says, I can't see Cameron Carter-Vickers going to England. No one. Who is bigger club than Celtic and playing in Europe? I can understand where you're coming from, Liam, but there's a lot of players do leave Celtic and go and move on and have pretty good careers. To know, and it's not all. Once you've got to think of the mindset of the player as well. If it was us, if it was one of us, um, unless you're like Kieran Tierney, you play at Celtic and then you've done it all. You've done it all. Look at Scott Brown. Scott Brown didn't want to move away from Celtic because he was like, you can move down to England and you can get. He had conversations many times with players, and Scott Brown spoke about this in interviews many times. He said, look, he said he could count. He said it's more than one hand that he would need to count, and many times that he's had players that would phone him or WhatsApp him and say, I've done the wrong thing, moving away from Celtic. Purely for the fact that they went away and moved for money. And I don't think that Cameron Carter Vickers, his main thought is financial. If he's going to move, he's going to move because he wants to go and play in a different league and he wants to try something else. Got to remember, he's American. He went through the youth system down south. He's American by default, I think. But if he gets a chance, he probably will move on, and he will move at some point. Anyway, did anyone cheer when Spurs equalised yesterday? Nope. Not even interested one bit about them. I understand that they drew. Did they draw with was it Man City they were playing? I know I noticed that because I was checking out some of the results. Anyway, you're a bad man, Lanky. Anyway, he sounds as American as me. Yep, he does that. He sounds about as American as my video sounded earlier on. Right, let me see if there's any other Celtic news kicking about. SFA put John Beaton. Oh, John Beaton's in charge. Oh dear. Here we go. Oh no. Don't believe it. John Beaton's got the game. Oh well. Who cares? Got to deal with it. John Beaton, the Sonic Masonic man. Anyway, Chris Boyd freaking out. Hearts giving Rangers boost. Um, Celtic confirmed. This is an interesting one. Celtic. I'll just get this article up. Just why did English Edinburgh papers do that? Absolute nonsense. Who cares? Right, let's move on from that. What time is it? It is 48 minutes into it. Right. What do you think the score will be? And what do you think the team will be on Wednesday? Obviously, Marco Tillo, the manager, said that Marco wasn't in the team purely for the fact that he got onto the bench because there was people injured, and then he said that Marco wasn't in the squad at the weekend because there was other players in the team. Who do you think will be in the team at Celtic Park on Wednesday? What do you think the score will be? We'll have a right good talk about it tomorrow night. What do you think the score will be? I'm thinking Celtic will win 2-1. I'm going to go for that. I'm going to write that down just now. That's not pen. 2-1 Celtic. I don't think it's going to be a high scoring game, but then again, we never thought it was going to. Well, there was a few people thought it was going to be a high scoring game at the weekend. We never thought it was going to play out the way that it did. We never thought that we were going to play absolutely terrible the first half. Absolutely terrible. I mean, when you look at the players that we were talking about earlier on, obviously the players that needed that big kick up the back end. The first one was Yang. Yang needed it because he was absolutely terrible at the weekend. He needs to improve, or he can see himself doing a Mikey Johnson and not getting on the pitch. Joe Hart is Joe Hart. He cost us again. I mean, I'm looking at a picture of him trying to get the ball. He's basically he's trying to jump over Greg Taylor. He should have been going through Greg Taylor and the St Johnstone player, but he didn't. He didn't. He landed on his jacksie and ended up back into the net. Callum McGregor, he's needed some of the criticism that was obviously due his way. He scored a cracker of a goal. It didn't surprise him that the manager give out the abuse that he did. But I think that he's one that will make sure that they are up for it on Wednesday. Greg Taylor, he's not come close to the highlights that he has in the last couple of seasons. He's admitted himself that he needs to get back to form. He's cost us a couple of goals this season. Will he get on the team, or will Bernabe get a chance? I don't think so. I don't think so. Mikey Johnson to start on Wednesday. I think so. I think so. Smell the Glove has come out and said Hart, Alistair Johnson, Carter Vickers, Scales, Taylor, Awata, Kalmak, Matt O'Reilly, Palmer, Kyogo, and Mikey Johnson. I think that's a pretty good shout, actually. I think that is a pretty good shout of a team for not Taylor. Not Taylor. Not Taylor. It says Danny, not Taylor. Does that mean you're going to bring Bernabe in? Is Bernabe even good enough? Obviously, we've not seen enough of Bernabe. That's a certain. Martin Haight has said Hart, Alistair Johnson, Carter Vickers, Scales, Taylor, Awata, Kalmak, Matt O'Reilly, Kyogo, and Mikey Johnson. Now that's a lineup. There could be. Will we start with the two up front? I don't know. I don't know. 3-0, and then there's a 3-1. Is it terrible? Unfortunately, 5-player at the back of the net. Yep. 3-0 is Celtic. 2-0 at half time. 2-0 at half time. Do you think it'll be 2-0 at half time? I don't think so. We never score 2 goals in the first half. It's just the way that we play. The state of heart of the Mother goal is terrible. Yep. Lee James, he loves to play against Hibs. Yeah, he does like to play against Hibs. Will he get the nod? Will he get the nod before? Do you think he'll get the nod? I think Mickey Johnson's better as an impact player. Could be right, but is that enough to give Mikey Johnson a new contract? Is that enough to give Mikey Johnson a new contract because he's an impact player? Would you give him a new contract for that? Or has the manager decided that he needs to go out and get a winger that he thinks is good enough? Leave Bernabei at home for the love of God. Tamak says Lanky Kyogo is known for the love of goal. He's got 2 against him. Yep. I think it could be a game to rest Kyogo. I've just got a feeling about it. Could be a game to rest Kyogo. He's not been playing particularly well. The fact that the pitch will be bigger, will our wingers stick to the byline? Will they stick to the byline? Will they try and get past players? Anyway. Lanky says he's going to go for Hart, Alistair Johnson, Cameron, Carter Vickers, Scales, Taylor, Calmack, Matt O'Reilly, Bernardo. I think Bernardo's a good shout to come back in for that game. Palmer, Kyogo, and Forrest. There you go. There's a lot of people unsure who to go with. 3-1. Hard to come and get a cross ball and miss it as he usually does. And drink or 2. Anyway, let's move on. Rest him for getting no service. No, if anything, I would rest him because at the end of the game yesterday, he was holding his shoulder again. You seen him. If you look at the pictures that are going around after the game that some of the media took, you can see Matt O'Reilly dancing about, and if you look in the background, you can see Kyogo holding his shoulder as they walked up to the fans. Hence the reason that he wasn't doing his little dancing cat thing that you get. Anyway, really happy with 6-2. No, it's never going to be a 6-2 game, Michael. Surely not. Not the way that Hibs are far too organised and they sit back far too much for it to be a 6-2 score. Better come out the tunnel like and Max. We definitely need a quicker start than what we have. We definitely need a quicker start. The sound's a bit low. Baz, I just don't know if anyone else was mentioning it. I'm going to get away from StreamYard because it is just causing all sorts of problems with the sound. Anyway, wait a minute. I'm getting a bit of feedback. I just noticed the video was playing in the background. Anyway, that's me being on for 45 minutes. I am off to get my dinner. Have a fantastic day, Celtic fans, all around the world. Of course, there's sound, there's audio. I can hear the audio myself. Anyway, have a fantastic. See you all tomorrow morning for the Celtic news, whatever's kicking about first thing in the morning. I shall see you on the next one. Hasta luego.